Over the next few days, we're going to see people from the Access media trying to drag the Marvels across the finish line because right now it's projected to be such an abysmal failure for Marvel. I mean, this article from the Hollywood Reporter says $60 to $65 million domestic opening, which it labels a near low for Marvel. And a near low is correct, but it's actually kind of worse than that. It actually might be a low for Marvels because when you jump over to the numbers and scroll down to what they're comparing it to, you can see Thor, Captain America, those made $65 million respectively when they came out, and that was in 2011. So over a decade ago. Incredible Hulk, that made $55 million domestically during its opening weekend, and that came out 15 years ago. So this is what they're comparing it to. And also you got to keep in mind that these numbers aren't adjusted for inflation. I mean, if you adjust it for inflation, this might actually be worse than what the Incredible Hulk is. That's if it's or if the Marvels is sort of near the low end of its projections. So not a good sign for it, all things considered, especially when you factor in that it has a nearly $275 million budget, which is like outpacing most other things in the MCU. I mean, let me see, just at a quick glance. Our Endgame cost $400 million, Infinity War 300. Anything else higher? Okay, 365 for Age of Ultron. So, yeah, just at this looking on here, no, I mean, this would actually, the only thing that this isn't more expensive to produce then is 3 Avenger movies, and that's about it. But also, just kind of as a little bit more recent example, I mean, this is pacing worse than The Eternals, which was able to make just over $71 million domestically. But it also made around $400 million globally. And if the Marvels is pacing worse than the Eternals, that's not a good sign, because with the budget that they have, they probably need to make around $700-800 million globally at a minimum in order just to break even. And right now it's pacing worse than a movie that only brought in $400 million. So this is looking like it's going to be a huge flop. And that's why we're getting articles like this. The Marvel's first reactions praise short and sweet, astonishingly wacky film, exactly what a comic book movie should be. Now, this is coming from Variety, and it's pointing out a couple members of the Access media who got early screenings of this, and they're saying like, yes, so much yes, this film is so much fun and exactly what a comic book movie should be. It's funny, silly, short and sweet, action-packed, love the cosmic sci-fi moments, plenty of MCU interconnectivity without being overbearing. The Marvels did an astonishingly wacky film. I had a lot of fun. Iman Vellani was born to be an MCU star. Actually, I think she would have been better if she was given something else with a better script. But yeah, unfortunately, she was shackled to the property that she was shackled to. She elevates a tangled story into a Marvel nerd's dream. Sometimes that dream weavers out of sync, but it sticks to landing. And we don't have actual like review scores for this from critics on Rotten Tomatoes, but I mean, I think we're going to end up getting something like what we did with Captain Marvel when that came out a couple years ago. And well, when that came out, the critic score was actually a bit higher than this because the early critics who see the movie are the ones who are basically given access by Disney and Marvel. Like, hey, you don't have to give us a favorable review, but if you want to be one of the first ones to actually have access and then get to put your review out there, just take that into consideration. So, I mean, that's what Access Media, it basically is. You get scoops as a result that you give them favorable coverage sort of thing. And the reviews for this were a little bit higher than as other critics who didn't have access started seeing it. Then you saw the numbers decline a little bit, and this is the final result to it. And I think we're going to see something similar with the Marvels, where the early scores are going to be a bit higher, going to be somewhat favorable. And then once audiences start seeing it and more critics start giving their reviews, then we're going to see those numbers slump. And we're going to get something probably similar to this with a mediocre at best critic score and then a pretty low audience score for this movie. And of course, we're going to hear like the whole like review bombing and all that jazz. I mean, review bombs happen from both sides. So if it's overwhelmingly negative, that means the majority of the people don't like it. I mean, or unless they're just saying the negative people are better at review bombing or something like that. They don't like to admit that it happens from positive review bombings as well, but it does happen positively. But unlike Captain Marvel, which did benefit and like actually made over $1 billion globally, we're not going to see the same thing with the Marvels because Captain Marvel had the benefit of actually being sandwiched between two of the biggest movies in the entire MCU, that is Infinity War and Endgame. And they tried to set up Endgame as like, well, they tried to set it up at the end of Infinity War, saying like, hey, you need to watch Captain Marvel in order to understand Endgame, because this is leading into Endgame. So that really did help propel it to that $1 billion global box office. Unfortunately for the Marvels, they don't have that luxury. The last couple movies that's been coming out for Marvel have been duds. And the only thing they're trying to set up is this is leading into the Fox universe with Deadpool 3. That's why it was leaked that Kelsey Grammer is going to make a post-credit scene, appearance as Beast in order to try to set that up. But I feel that's going to be too late sort of thing. I mean, this is one of those movies that I'm pretty sure is just going to be a huge financial disaster for the studio. And we already get word that they're trying to change course in future projects. So maybe they understand, like, yeah, they're just kind of figuring this as a loss, trying to mitigate their loss as much as possible. But in the end, they're just going to try to grit their teeth, just want to rip this Band-Aid off and be done with it and just try to move on from there. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure you click that like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.